with breaking news. This is News Channel 5 at 10.
And I feel like I've lost a second father.
We begin tonight with the death of a civil rights giant in Tennessee. Longtime attorney George Barrett died this evening at the age of 86. Barrett was known as a fierce defender of free speech.
And he worked right up until he went into the hospital 2 weeks ago. News Channel 5's Todd Walker is here with more on his life from someone who worked alongside him for decades.
Yeah, guys, Barrett has been a legal titan in Nashville since the late 1950s. He worked on several suits which fought for desegregation of schools and the state's colleges and universities. One of those suits lasted more than 30 years until it was finally settled in 2001. Not long ago, I spoke to Barrett's legal partner of nearly 30 years. Calling himself the citizen, he said Barrett would represent anyone, win or lose, whose rights were being violated.
He used to brag that, in fact, he did represent the KKK because he firmly believed in the First Amendment. And even though the Klan stood for everything that he was opposed to, he understood that they had a right, just like everyone else, to make their voice heard.
Barrett died earlier this evening after a 2-week battle with pancreatitis. Guys, there is no word just yet on funeral arrangements.
All right, Todd, thank you.
Well, tonight we do know that leaders throughout Nashville are remembering George Barrett.
Mayor Carl Dean released a statement this evening. He says George Barrett was larger than life and always willing to take up an unpopular cause if he felt it was the right thing to do. He was a social justice champion and was certainly on the right side of history as an attorney advocate during the civil rights movement. He was beloved by many friends and respected by his adversaries. He will be deeply missed.
Tennessee Board of Regents Chancellor John G. Morgan also weighing in on the passing of Barrett tonight. He says, quote, "Our friend, the citizen George Barrett, was an incredible force for good in many ways. His work on behalf of students and higher education ensured access and opportunity are available to every Tennessean. All of us who were honored to know him are better off for it." And I should point out I had the pleasure to sit down and interview Barrett just a few months ago when his longtime friend John Siegenthaler passed away. The two met while they were freshmen at Father Ryan High School. Barrett's work ethic on behalf of the underprivileged, absolutely legendary. As we mentioned, he was working right up until 2 weeks ago when he went into the hospital. Among other things, as Todd mentioned, he fought to end segregation in schools. Most recently, he fought against the voter ID law here in Tennessee, and he was also defending investors in some large cases, against security firms on Wall Street. So unbelievable.
Yeah, truly just an amazing legacy to leave behind. A lot of people will remember him. He'll be missed by so many. And you're seeing some of that response already tonight on social media. People are leaving comments and condolences on our News Channel 5 Facebook page. They're also sending out tweets about him and sharing memories. So you can join in and do that as well. And also stay with News Channel 5 on air and online for the latest on memorial plans or funeral arrangements for George Barrett.
One of Nashville's true civil rights crusaders has died. Attorney George Barrett had been hospitalized for 2 weeks with pancreatitis when he died this evening at St. Thomas Hospital. Barrett grew up in East Nashville and was a member of Vanderbilt's legendary law class of 1957 that produced some of the city's greatest legal achievers. He would make his name as a warrior for civil rights.
So I think we've been very fortunate to provide a lot of leadership to the South, and I'm proud to have played some very minor role in it, along with all my colleagues.
In 1968, Barrett decided to represent a young TSU faculty member named Rita Geyer. That case would linger 30 years and lead to the desegregation of higher education across the state. George Barrett worked up until his death for workers, unions, minorities, and to make institutions open and fair. Tonight, friends and colleagues are remembering him, including Mayor Dean, who said, quote, "He was rightfully and affectionately known as Citizen Barrett, beloved by many friends and respected by his adversaries. He will be deeply missed." George Barrett was 86.
We begin tonight with a local breaking news alert. A prominent Nashville civil rights attorney has died.
George Barrett was a lifelong Nashvilleian and Vanderbilt law graduate, and over the last 50-plus years, he became a fighter for equal rights, litigating civil rights and discrimination cases, and he even garnered the nickname Citizen Barrett.
Tonight, Mayor Carl Dean released this statement on Barrett's passing, saying George Barrett was larger than life and always willing to take up an unpopular cause if he felt it was the right thing to do. He was a social justice champion and was certainly on the right side of history as an attorney advocate during the civil rights movement. Barrett died of pancreatitis. He was 86 years old. We'll have much more on the passing of George Barrett as well as his life tomorrow right here on News 2.
Breaking news tonight as Nashville loses another civil rights pioneer. Tonight, Fox 17 learned attorney George Barrett died a few hours ago at the age of 86. He passed away around 6:30 tonight after battling pancreatitis.
Barrett grew up here in Nashville. He graduated from Father Ryan and then Vanderbilt Law School in the 1950s and went on to help fight segregation here in Middle Tennessee. Barrett was good friends with longtime Tennessean editor John Siegenthaler, who passed away himself just about 2 months ago. Those who knew Barrett best say he was courageous.
Very dangerous for any white man. We would say it costs to be a white man then. George stood up when it costs to be and fighting for the rights of all of Tennesseans.
Barrett family is expected to release final arrangements sometime tomorrow. Nashville Mayor Carl Dean just released a statement calling Barrett a social justice champion on the right side of history. You can share your condolences right now on our Facebook page. That's facebook.com/Fox Nashville.
A prominent Nashville civil rights attorney, George Barrett, has died. Barrett was a lifelong Nashvilleian, a Vanderbilt law graduate. Over 50-plus years, he fought for equal rights, litigating civil rights and discrimination cases, affectionately known in this town as Citizen Barrett. Nashville Mayor Carl Dean releasing this statement on Barrett's passing, saying George Barrett was larger than life and always willing to take up an unpopular cause if he felt it was the right thing to do. He was a social justice champion and was certainly on the right side of history as an attorney advocate during his civil rights movement. Barrett died of pancreatitis. He was 86 years old.
One of Nashville's warriors for civil rights has passed away. Attorney George Barrett was in the hospital for 2 weeks with pancreatitis before he passed away last night at St. Thomas Hospital. He grew up in East Nashville. He was a member of Vanderbilt's legendary law class back in 1957. That produced some of Nashville's greatest legal achievers.
So I think we've been very fortunate to provide a lot of leadership to the South, and I'm proud to have played some very minor role in it, along with all my colleagues.
The 86-year-old worked up until his death for workers, unions, minorities, and to make institutions both open and fair. Mayor Dean released this statement about his death, saying, quote, he was rightfully and affectionately known as Citizen Barrett. He was beloved by many friends and respected by his adversaries.
We reported last night on the passing of a prominent Nashville civil rights attorney, and tonight we've learned George Barrett's funeral will be Saturday morning at the Cathedral of the Incarnation at 11. For more than 50 years, Barrett fought for equal rights, litigating civil rights and discrimination cases. He died of pancreatitis, and he was 86 years old.
Tomorrow, one of Nashville's top civil rights crusaders will be laid to rest. Attorney George Barrett passed away Tuesday after fighting pancreatitis for 2 weeks. Barrett worked until his death for unions, minorities, workers, and to make institutions open and fair. His funeral will be held tomorrow morning at the Cathedral of the Incarnation on West End. Barrett was 86 years old.
Funeral services will be held this morning for famed Nashville civil rights attorney George Barrett. Mass will begin at 11 at the Cathedral of the Incarnation on West End Avenue here in Nashville. Barrett died Tuesday after battling pancreatitis. He was 86 years old.
Today, hundreds turned out to say goodbye to famed civil rights lawyer George Barrett. Loved ones filled the Cathedral of the Incarnation Catholic Church on West End today to bid farewell to Barrett. He died last week of acute pancreatitis. Barrett spent more than 50 years practicing law and is best known for a suit he filed that led to the desegregation of state colleges and universities.
Thank God for George Barrett. We will miss him terribly, but we'll keep the faith and carry on to honor his legacy.
And Barrett didn't stop there. He also represented corporate whistleblowers and took on labor rights as well in security fraud cases. He was 86 years old.
Civil rights attorney and activist George Barrett, who died earlier this week, was laid to rest today. Friends, family, admirers, and supporters gathered at the Cathedral of Incarnation on West End this morning for the service. Barrett graduated from Vanderbilt Law School in 1957 and began his career representing college students who fought to integrate schools in the early 60s. His career lasted more than 50 years. One of Barrett's biggest cases spanned 38 years and ended with the state paying millions of dollars to diversify public colleges and universities.
He really believed in the American dream. He really believed that all men were born free and equal.
Barrett is survived by 3 daughters, a sister, and 11 grandchildren.